reviewing the Lerman and Cunliffe resource outlining the key concepts in organizational design, I identified three main areas that resonated most with me, particularly due to the relationship that exists among them and the value I see in each component based on my experience. My discussion will focus on business strategy, organizational change, and organizational culture. As defined in the resource, business strategy is the organization's plan for achieving its goals, managing environmental demands, maximizing core competencies, and putting into place the organizational processes and practices necessary for achieving these goals. Additionally, it was noted that business strategy involves an ongoing process for analysis, formulation, implementation, and evaluation. To me, this is most valuable in understanding. Strategy is not simply set and forgotten about. It is ongoing and critical to the success of the organization. With this, it is vital that strengths and weaknesses are clearly understood. Edith Penrose and Ronald Coase's work led to the Harvard Business School's development of the SWOT analysis during the 1960s, which represents an examination of the firm's internal strengths and weaknesses, and an examination of the opportunities and threats, and is a popular tool used in many organizations. I found this particularly interesting since the tool is something that the organization I previously worked for utilized, and as a result, I have personally used to develop my own strategy. Looking at the definition of business strategy and the first step of the process, analysis, utilizing SWOT is such a vital resource. After all, how can an organization properly identify, formulate, and implement a strategy without truly understanding its strengths and weaknesses? Moving on to organizational change. As defined, organizational change is the process by which an organization moves from its current or from its present condition to a desired state, in particular improving its use of resources in its struggle to continue to create value and service. The objectives of organizational change are usually to increase an organization's ability to adapt to its environment and improve performance by modifying or improving its structure, processes, technology, culture, reward systems, attitudes, and behaviors. So clearly, I can see the relationship that exists between business strategy and organizational change. Once strengths and weaknesses are understood and a successful strategy is developed, organizational change would be an outcome of this process. It is important to note that all changes are not created equal, and characteristics of each must be carefully considered. Communication is key when change is involved. I appreciated the discussion around the four process models of organization change, since I can easily apply these models and the possible corresponding breakdowns to my current environment. Vandy, Venn, and Poole identified typology of four process models of organizational change based on how the process of development and change was perceived and enacted. They argue that these four theories provided a basis for understanding when each approach should be used and why. And more recently, Vandy, Venn, and Son expanded the model by examining why change must break down in each theory and how it can be remedied. To summarize, these four models are theological process theory. This sees planned change as involving a cycle of goal setting, implementation, evaluation, and modification. Members agree on goals. Breakdowns may occur due to decision biases, and remedies include critical thinking. Life cycle process theory. This prescribes a sequence of activities and rules for change and applies this if changes are predictable. Breakdowns can occur due to resistance, and remedies include being responsive to concerns. Dialectical process theory. This sees change as a process in which people with opposing views vie for power. Reasons for a breakdown include power imbalances, and remedies may involve conflict management. Evolutionary process theory. This sees change unfolding in a cycle as organizational units compete for scarce resources. A breakdown may occur when resources are plentiful and may be remedied by niche development. While I understand the differences in each and see where they could apply, looking at the life cycle process theory a bit closer for a moment, this is the one I experience most often. Most recently, we are looking at implementing a new questionnaire for advisors related to cybersecurity. There is certainly an overall resistance to change and is certainly a possible breakdown that needs to be considered. In order to remedy, we will need to be responsive to concerns. Concerns will likely involve overall knowledge on the subject and the time taken to complete. Because we understand the need for change and the possible concerns, we can remedy by addressing them to them based on personalized education and the overall ease of completion of the questionnaire. According to this resource, this typology assumes that change is a strategic process. Again, the correlation is so clear, as strategy plays a huge role in this process. Using the example above, it is vital that we develop a strategy for implementation in order to effect positive organizational change. Lastly, organizational culture, which is defined as a set of beliefs, values, assumptions, norms, stories, ceremonies, artifacts, and symbols within the organization that influence the way employees behave and perform their jobs. Further defined in Edgar Schein's 3 elements of culture: 1, observable and tangible artifacts. This would include decor, mission statements, policies, procedures, and other. 2, a shared value system that members are usually aware of and which is often expressed in a value statement. These values may include collaboration or customer service. And 3, a system of assumptions or unspoken rules that members are usually not consciously aware of, which underpins artifacts and values. In nearly every assignment and discussion we have had throughout the duration of this course, we have learned about the importance of organizational culture and the overall benefits to the employees and how it leads to the overall success of the organization. This is so powerful, and to me, is almost the result of all of the other components, specifically business strategy and organizational change. As quoted in this resource, organizational culture evolves from the particular characteristics within an organization and also from its environment. This includes the broader society, demographics, and industry, the organization's structure and design, its leadership and management styles, interpersonal dynamics, and actual work content, end quote. Without a successful strategy, the identification of any organizational changes is not possible, and ultimately the organization will suffer as a result. There are so many theories and components that make up organizational theory. It is vital that all components are understood, studied, and applied as necessary. For me, the relationship among the components is of most importance. While we have learned so many different things throughout this course, it is critical to remember that the overall success of the organization is not dependent upon the proper utilization of one or even several components, but rather the right combination of all components, which need to be understood and constantly evaluated.